Hello, welcome everyone. Today's Battle Rhythm is an integrated approach to TBI and mental wellness. I want to welcome everyone to the presentation, especially our friends, our affiliates, our branch community, our four-star alliance member, and all the veteran support organizations out there. We appreciate all that you do for veterans across the country. Today's presentation will be led by Greg Frey. He is the Vice President of Strategic Engagement and Partnerships from Avalon Action Alliance. Before I mess up any more names, I'm going to pass this presentation over to Greg. Greg, please take it from here.
Awesome. Thanks, Allison. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. And let me start by a thank you to Allison. Thank you for, facilitating this for us. Thanks for all the work you lead at America's Warrior Partnership. And again, thanks for everybody for joining us for the call. I see some familiar faces and excited to make some new friends. And today we're excited to share what we offer at Avalon Action Alliance for service members, veterans, and first responders. We're eager to learn about you and have a great discussion. And I'm also really grateful to be joined by Ricci, Michael Odell, and Kelley Letellier. At Avalon, we take an integrated approach to brain health. So it's really important that we have representatives from each of our program areas on the call. Again, as Allison mentioned, my name is Greg Frey. I'm a 26-year Army veteran. And I had a really remarkable journey in uniform with great experiences, multiple deployments, pre and post 9/11, and some resultant trauma that I've had to work through, largely through two of Avalon's programs. I've been engaged in supporting the military, veterans, and their families in various capacities for about 12 years. I'm incredibly passionate about the work we do at Avalon. I've seen firsthand the impact it has on our clients and their families. And I'd really love for Kellen, Ian, and Mike to provide their backgrounds. So I'll start with you, Kelley.
Thank you, Greg, and thanks everyone for taking time to be here today to hear about the programs that Avalon Action Alliance has to offer. Again, Kelley Letellier. I am a physical therapist by training. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. I worked with the University of Florida Health System for about 23 years. A few of those years I was the executive director for the TBI program here in Jacksonville. And I have been with Avalon Action Alliance for the last 1 year. So really looking forward to offering the presentation today and fielding questions. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Kelley. Over to you, Ian, please.
Yeah, my name is Ian Ricci. Like the rest of our cohort here, appreciate you guys joining in. I served about 6 years in the United States Army as an infantryman. After that, transitioned out, and I worked at the VA for about 6 years as well as a veteran claims service officer, and then eventually with the Court of Veterans Appeals on the veterans' behalf, and have now been with Boulder, Crest going on 6 years as well. So it seems like 6 years is my jam, but I'll be here forever.
Thanks so much, Ian. Appreciate you. Michael?
Yeah, thanks everybody. And I echo what everybody else said. It's great to have everybody on the call. And I'm super excited to share about Avalon Action Alliance and the different things that Avalon offers. My name is Michael Odell. I served in the Marine Corps for 4 years with 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines. And personally, I am in recovery from substance abuse and post-traumatic stress. And it's been an amazing ride, and I've been with Warriors Heart. I'm the Chief Operating Officer. I've been with Warriors Heart since 2018 and part of Avalon for about the last 5 years, I think, maybe even 6. So thank you. Super happy to be here.
Thanks, Mike. I'm glad you're here. So really, as I mentioned, today our goal is to give you an overview of Avalon, inspire you to turn struggle into strength. Really, as we talk about the work with veterans, first responders, it's critical that we talk about the potential to grow after trauma. Because at Avalon, we firmly believe that our best days are not behind us, they're in front of us. And we're going to save plenty of time for discussion and questions. Okay, so who's Avalon? Really, in simple terms, and we'll get into the details and we'll chat about it. In simple terms, we are an integrated network that tackles 3 post-trauma impacts of traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress, and substance addiction. And we really want to, the care is difficult, getting into care is hard, but what we want to make easy is the process to get in and the care journey with us. And we try to remove as many barriers as we can, and we'll talk about that. And so really, we understand that navigating care can be difficult and complex. And we at Avalon, we really try to aim to lessen that burden. A little bit about the work we do. So Avalon, we've been in existence as an organization 2 years, but the work's been going on about 6 or 7 years. And the work that we do is incredibly purposeful to tackle these three trauma impacts of TBI, PTS, and addiction. As you can see on the slide, oftentimes, the symptoms are interrelated. There's comorbidity, and we've also learned is that the brain's messy, right? And Kelley's really going to dig into that pretty deeply. So we tackle all three. And what we've seen is sometimes our clients might only need one program, they might need two, or they might need three. And again, this design is incredibly purposeful to tackle these three leading conditions. Kelley's going to dig in deeper to traumatic brain injury. Ian's going to talk to you more deeply about the work we do on for post-traumatic growth. And Michael's going to weigh in for our treatment for addiction. And what you're going to hear is we'll probably bounce off each other a little bit as well, right? Again, this network is integrated and it's designed to be purposeful, and we show up as one team. So I'll give you a second to take this in. And what this is a map of all of our partner sites across the country. And having done this work for about 12 years or so, we found that it's really important to point out that when you come into Avalon, we're not simply going to send you to another website of somebody in our network. We truly are an integrated network of care, and we make and we track referrals, and the three other folks on this call lead a lot of this work. So please know that we at Avalon, we're truly partners, we truly work together, and we truly work to get folks in the care that they need. And it might be one, two, or three of our programs. We've got 7 traumatic brain injury centers across the country. Ian leads our Warrior Path work, and we've got 11 teams across the country that treat for post-traumatic stress through our program called Warrior Path, based on the science of post-traumatic growth. And Ian will go more deeply into that. And Michael leads our work for substance abuse treatment at 2 of our facilities in Texas and Virginia. So really, again, the message is we're integrated, we work together. In my role, I've been to every TBI center, I've gone through Warrior Path, I've worked closely with Ian, and I can tell you that the men and women that deliver these programs deliver them incredibly well, incredibly passionately. Before we get into some program details, I just really wanted to take a moment here. At Avalon, all of our programs, we've got the data, we can show you the outcome measures, but I think what we really like to stand by are the quality of life improvements that we can make, right? We hear things like, you've given us our mom back. You've given us our dad back. I'm doing better at work. I'm meeting my fitness goals. So really, again, we have the data and the outcomes, and we can talk about all that. But I think what is most profound for us is when we get feedback from clients and their families that they're well onto their journey of living their best life. Ian or Mike or Kelley, any particular story you might like to share about a client experience? Kind of brings us to life a little bit. Yeah, why don't you start, Kelley?
Okay. We had a client come in for our 3rd cohort, right? So we just stood the program up. We had 2 cohorts ahead of this person who came through the program. When he came for his evaluation, I walked him outside and I said, you really need this program, Steve. I really hope you come back. So not only did Steve come back for programming, he went through the 3-week TBI program, but he is now the executive director of the program that I left. So he's thriving. He's doing great. The TBI program saved his life, and he now works as the director of the program in Jacksonville.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelley. Ian?
A rural gentleman from South Dakota who I knew in a previous life, found out I was doing this work, and being a service member himself, he came through Warrior Path, and during Warrior Path, some substance abuse was discovered. And in talking to him and our alliance, doing what we do best and working together, able to work with Mike and his team to get this gentleman transferred down there after completing Warrior Path. So completing 2 programs within our alliance, and then now living his best life and becoming a couple-time over world champion in jiu-jitsu, and living the life that he has discovered through Warrior Path and through Warrior's Heart. And hearing the gratitude that comes off this gentleman will always give me goosebumps.
Thanks, Ian. Mike?
Yeah, thanks. So every one of our warriors at Warriors Heart, when they get to the gate, they get a welcome home. And a lot of warriors don't understand what that means. And I'm sure we're all familiar with the welcome home that our Vietnam veterans received. When this testimonial, we had a Vietnam veteran. He hadn't gotten help in years, just struggling with addiction for a long time, since Vietnam. He reaches out. He comes to our program through Avalon at Warriors Heart. He gets here and he sees another person that he served with at Vietnam. And then he shared a testimonial with us of what welcome home actually meant. He hadn't seen this guy that he served with since Vietnam, and he didn't understand what welcome home meant until he saw his buddy that he had served with, and then it all clicked for him. And the guy is still, he's in our sober living program. He's ministering to other clients, and it's just so cool just to have that connection that never would have happened if they both wouldn't have reached out for help. And so and there's many more, but that's one that stood out to me. Thanks, Greg.
Hey, thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. I appreciate all your stories. And I think one thing you ended with, Michael, before we get in the program description, is reaching out for help, right? And I think one thing that we appreciate is it's difficult for service members, veterans, first responders to reach out for help. So we work very hard to work through that, frankly, self-imposed obstacle to care. So again, we know it takes courage to reach out for help. And we're just here to stand by those men and women when they do raise their hands to get into care. So thank you. All right. So it's a rough overview of Avalon. We'll talk about it in more detail during the Q&A, but I'd love to yield the floor to Michael to go into some detail about Warriors Heart and our treatment for substance abuse.
All right, thanks, Greg. So Warriors Heart, like Greg said, we have 2 locations in the U.S., one here in Bend, Texas, and one in Virginia, Milford, Virginia. Warriors Heart has been in operation since 2016, and our mission is primarily substance abuse and PTS, post-traumatic growth, and we do a little bit of MERT or TMS, some brain treatment as well. But our program consists of detox. It's a 42-day inpatient training program. We used to be 28 days, and what we learned is that our population, veterans, active duty, and first responders, they need a little bit more care than a 28-day program can offer. So we extended our services to a 40-day inpatient training program at both of our locations, and we also have a PHP mental health program here in Texas, along with our sober living program and our TMS program. We also, in our inpatient program, offer a multitude of electives. We are we take a holistic approach to healing. What came first, substance abuse, trauma, it doesn't really matter if you treat them both at the same time. So that's how we take it, and it's holistic in the sense that it's mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional healing. And that's what our warriors have fought for, and that's what they deserve. And that's why Warriors Heart and Avalon even exists. It's because they deserve these programs. Some of our holistic approaches are ESA and full service canines. Not everybody leaves here with a service or ESA canine, but they have the opportunity, if clinically appropriate, to leave here with an emotional support or a service canine, along with wood shop, metal shop, art, jujitsu, all kinds of therapeutic electives that help replace the unhealthy habits with something new and positive, because you can't just remove something from somebody without having replaced it with something else. So that's the intention with the electives, but we'll carry on. So impact, and actually when we put this together, it's we've had a very busy couple months. So we've served over 3,500 of our nation's heroes in our 42-day inpatient training program since 2016. And again, who is that? It's veterans, active duty, and first responders. A lot of programs out there have left-right limits to the types of veterans that they can help. We do not care, pre, post 9/11, honorable, dishonorable discharge. Look, a lot of folks got released from service other than honorable or dishonorably because of substance abuse related to their PTS. And so who helps those warriors? Avalon and Warriors Heart and the Avalon partners are here to help those warriors too. Doesn't matter what happened. If we have a veteran that finished boot camp that is struggling with one of the three things, they will get treated through Avalon. And there are first responders as well. They go through daily deployments. It's not just 7 months in theater and then back. Our cops, fire, EMS are doing it every single day. And then going home for dinner. A lot of them need help. Why are we here? Because they deserve it. I said that already. So our warriors deserve to heal with dignity, to heal they deserve hope. And if a program can provide hope, then the warrior has a chance to heal. And it just takes a community, just like what Avalon did when Avalon came together for these three pillars. And so it's a little bit about Warriors Heart. And essentially what we do is we help empower the human spirit through training. And I'll pass it on.
Hey, Mike, can I ask one thing from you?
Yeah.
Well, one, just, for those on the call, I've had the privilege of going out to Warriors Heart numerous times, or my neighbors in Texas. And I will tell you, 500-acre facilities, and I don't know that there's a better place to heal from addiction than with the team at Warriors Heart in Texas and Virginia. With the electives and the wood shop and the art therapy and the equine therapy and the CrossFit gym, I just want to say that again, that the care that Mike and the teams are providing in Texas and Virginia is actually quite extraordinary. And one thing I think, Mike, if you could touch on a little bit about the unique aspects of veterans, active duty, first responders, sort of that defender community being together. Could you touch on that a little bit, that uniqueness?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So yeah, to Greg's point, so our facilities and locations are designed with our warrior class in mind. They are not a 10-acre plot. They're over 500 acres with stocked lakes on both properties, and they are literally designed when a warrior comes home and gets that welcome home, we want them to feel like they're home. We want them to truly get it. Most of our warriors, even though they're home in the States, are still overseas. They never really came home. And so we designed our facilities with that in mind. We want them to feel like they're home. And so there's no other programs in the country that are just dedicated. The whole program is just dedicated to 42 days of substance abuse and PTS training for veterans, active duty, and first responders. There's a lot of programs out there that have tracks that serve and that do a great job. But Warriors Heart is exclusive to that class on their properties. And then to Greg's point about the veterans, active duty, and first responders. So what we know, I think we can all agree with, is that substance abuse, PTS, TBI, all kind of, it doesn't matter if you were a firefighter or an active duty Marine Corps, if you're active duty Marine Corps. Doesn't matter if you're a police officer or a paramedic. If you're struggling with one of those, it's treated the same. And if we can bring you into an environment where you're around your brothers and sisters and you're getting the appropriate clinical and medical therapies that you need in a place where you can feel open, the level of healing that you're going to get is just exponential. And you're comfortable. I'm comfortable as a Marine Corps veteran sharing the things that I went through in Ramadi with somebody else who was in the Army or a firefighter more than if I was just in a program somewhere else. So that's a little bit about how we're able to treat all three of those in the same place. It's all kind of treated the same, and they've all given their life to service at some capacity. Over.
Thanks, Mike. That was perfect. I appreciate you. All right, I think we're over to Mr. Ian Ricci to talk about the great work happening across Boulder Crest Foundation.
So Warrior Path, overall, I think it's important to discuss our mission first, and the mission with this, as it says on the screen right there, train warriors to transform struggle into strength, to achieve post-traumatic growth, which is something we'll go into to explain it, and to live great lives, right? These lives that are filled with passion and purpose, service, growth, and connection to everything around you. Warrior Path spelled a little different than most. The acronym behind that: Progressive and Alternative Training for Helping Heroes. And look, this is a training. This is a training course. When folks see this stuff and they want to know what this is based on your training. One of the things that service members and first responders know more than anything, it's how to train. Right? You train for the fight ahead. You train for what's going on, and this is no different. This is training for struggle. It's the one thing that we can guarantee that everybody will face in their life is struggle. And so that's what this training course is for. What we train in is the 5 domains of growth, right? Personal strength, appreciation for life, deeper relationships, new possibilities, and spiritual and existential growth. Now, when we talk about spiritual and existential growth, that does raise questions at times. This is not a religious type training course, but when we talk about spirit is what gets your feet on the ground in the morning. What lights your fire inside? What is your purpose? When veterans and first responders apply to our programs, know that there's no out of pocket costs for this. We do take care of travel, if that's flights or gas. We do take care of room and board at any of our 11 facilities that participants come to. And then, of course, the training itself is also covered. We don't need to go through insurance or any red tape of that nature to make this happen. It's all free of cost, and it really alleviates some of the pressure of how can I do this? How can I make this happen? With active duty members, we have been able to work with their chain of commands to provide this as a TDY type training when people need to leave to get this done while still on active duty. So when we talk about the outline of this training, it's a 90-day consecutive training course. It's peer delivered. So the important piece of that is everybody that runs our training courses is either a veteran or a first responder, each in their own right. You won't find any psychiatrists or psychologists at our training, and it's not to degrade them. It's just there is a big connection that happens when it's peer to peer, and we really utilize that strength of brotherhood and sisterhood around this. Of that 90 days, this begins with 7 days of residential training at one of our static facilities or one of our mobile sites. So one of our models here, right? We have 11 teams across our network. Okay, and of those teams, we have 9 static teams. And then 2 of our teams are mobile. Our 2 mobile teams travel all over the country to fill what we call the gaps of service. You see the Western Hemisphere, the Western side of our country. We try to find locations there. So we'll be popping up all over the place. Now, after a participant comes through our training, they travel back home and they continue their training on with the MyPath team and the staff through our MyPath app. Through that MyPath app, we utilize the continuing 83 days to gain that same connection they had when they were there, to build off of that, the support and the connection with 5 structured team calls. During those 5 structured team calls, we go over our different goal setting structures, different strategies we have for goal setting, our wellness triangles, an overall check-in, and then a review of some of the curriculum that we had out for the week and or for the day. The curriculum we use, we keep fairly proprietary. It's within the organization, meaning that we don't release that till you come through. Okay, so people have asked in the past, and they want to know what they're getting into, and the best way to do it is to take the dive, to join. All right. With the how does this work? Overall, this has been a decade's worth of data-driven results. Okay, we pride ourselves on the data we can provide to others, showing that this works. And when we talk about data, we're looking at the reduction of symptoms of PTSD and the increase in growth in the post-traumatic growth index. So currently, as it stands now, we see a 58% reduction in PTSD symptoms which is well over the norm across the country, and as well a 58% increase in growth on our PT-GI index. So eligibility for Warrior Path, like Mike alluded to earlier, and Mike mentioned, we don't look to serve specifics. Okay, military is active duty, National Guard, Reserve, and veterans. Combat veterans, when we state combat veterans, we will aggressively pursue combat veterans, but that does not in any way, shape, or form mean that we negate anybody else. If somebody came through that served during the Korean War, which has happened, we will serve them. Vietnam veterans, we will serve them. Peacetime veterans, we will serve them. Same thing with the backgrounds. If somebody got out because they had a less than honorable discharge or a bad conduct discharge, we don't know what that's for. And if it's something that resulted because of post-traumatic stress or substance abuse, we'll look into that and we'll get the right placement across our alliance here. For active first responders, law enforcement, firefighter, EMS are all welcome. The next one here is a big point for us. We get asked a lot when we're doing these interviews if do I need to have a diagnosis of this? I don't feel comfortable going to my chain of command, or I haven't gone to a doctor. I just know something is wrong. A diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder is absolutely not required to get into the program. That's not something that we look for. We do not request medical records of any kind. This is truly peer-to-peer, okay? It's all based on connection and the science of post-traumatic growth. When veterans do apply, we do need to get a copy of their DD 214, and it's not for discharge purposes. It's just to ensure that they are actually a veteran. Like I said, we don't need a referral or a diagnosis of any kind. And then, of course, back to the initial statement that all the training that we have, as well as transportation, meals, lodging, is all provided at no cost to the participants. All right, I believe that wraps up what I have here. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Kelley.
Thanks, Ian. Appreciate that. And like they said, we'll field calls afterwards, but keep placing them in the chat, please. I'll go over the TBI mission statement. I mean, you can read it there to provide in-depth interdisciplinary care to military veterans. I want to kind of pick at the interdisciplinary care. I would add also multidisciplinary care. So multidisciplinary care meaning multi-disciplines, right? So a whole host of different types of providers, but also interdisciplinary, meaning those providers all communicate and come up with plans about each client. So there's a lot of discussions about clients, provider to provider and as a team. So veterans, first responders with persistent post-concussive symptoms. You saw some of those on one of those slides that was at the beginning of the presentation that Greg went over. But a lot of times people don't know that they've had a mild brain injury or what we call concussion or polyconcussion until they recognize the symptoms or the signs, right? So persistent headaches, issues with sleep, memory difficulties, balance or dizziness issues, concentration challenges, lots of times ringing in the ears, light and sound sensitivity, at least probably starting to sound familiar to folks, vision problems, reading problems, and then crossover symptoms with post-traumatic stress. And I did want to mention mild to moderate traumatic brain injuries. We don't treat severe brain injuries and we don't treat acute brain injuries. So you see beyond 6 months at the bottom of the slide. We don't treat acute brain injuries because we want healing to happen first, so that clients can get as well as possible. And then if and when they're still experiencing some of these symptoms, we let the healing happen first. And then also severe brain injuries. The program really isn't designed for someone with severe brain injuries if they're not independent and they need a lot of help. And if they can't remember some of the tools we're teaching them, they're just not going to benefit from it. So mild to moderate that's kind of our group that we follow. And just like the other programs, you can see we remove all the financial barriers, era served, location, age, similar to what what Mike and Ian have discussed. So remove all barriers to care so that folks can get what they need. So what is a TBI? You can see on the slide, it's brain damage that can really occur from either an external force or a blow to the head, or more commonly from activities that cause your brain to impact the inside of your skull. So when that happens, your tissue is damaged, and we can see long-term effects from these mild injuries, especially if people have experienced several of them over time. And they're often undiagnosed, right? So a mild brain injury, oh, I got my bell rung, you've got these symptoms of, your hearing, you get ringing in your ears, your vision might change, your cognition might be altered for a little bit. Typical concussion stuff, right? So it's often people get up and keep going and they don't seek help for it until later, when it really becomes problematic to life and quality of life. So patient-centered care, kind of a buzz phrase, but that's okay. I talked about multidisciplinary, the term multidisciplinary team a few minutes ago. These are some of the different types of providers that clients in TBI programs see. So you can see that the care is a combination of traditional medical intervention, people like neurologists, physical therapists, pharmacists, speech therapists. So it's like typical medical model of care. But we also combine those with non-traditional or complementary therapies, like animal-assisted therapy, often as equine therapy or canine therapy, like some of the other programs Mike mentioned, art therapy, movement, yoga, sometimes music, sometimes acupuncture. The complementary therapies really vary across TBI centers. And again, it's to expose people to different types of treatment and non-clinical, not treatment, but just picking up things that work from someone. And I don't see a lot of veterans or first responders knocking on the door of a yoga instructor just to try it. So, we expose them to different types of things that may work for them after the program, so that they can explore it when they finish. So the model of care, there is an initial screen. So we just want to make sure that clients are eligible. There is an application process. I wouldn't say it's rigorous, but we do collect things like medical records, past treatment, what has worked, what hasn't worked, that kind of thing. We do look for the DD-14. So there is an application process that someone would need to go through. The TBI center really establishes your needs, and if they think that you benefit from an evaluation, then they will arrange that. Evaluation is typically over 3 days. It's about 20 hours. So it's all clinical, right? So it's a couple of hours with a physical therapist, a couple of hours with a speech therapist, a couple of hours with each of those medical model providers. And then after the evaluation is complete, the team discusses it and gives the client recommendations for care after the evaluation. And a lot of times that includes the full treatment program. So that's the intensive outpatient treatment program, 3 weeks, about 100 clinical appointments. Typically the IOP is scheduled for a few weeks or months after the evaluation, just depending on the treatment location. It is cohort based, so 4 to 10 clients per cohort. It's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 3 straight weeks. It's also a combination of group therapy and individual therapy. So about half of it is groups and half of it is individual appointments with providers. Family is part of programming at the beginning, not so much during, except for like the end of the program. The family spouses or family are invited to come to some of the last appointments to see what the veteran or first responder has learned in the program, so that they can have some follow-up, and the family understands the things that they've learned and put in their toolbox, right? So family is involved, and there is a post-care and follow-up after graduation, after the 3-week IOP. We follow up with every client at certain intervals. Usually it's a month, 3 months, 6 months, and every year after that.
Kelley, can I say something real quick?
Sure.
So one, I did go back to that slide, please, Allison. So one, I didn't get a chance to give a shout out to Ian and his team at Warrior Path. I went through Warrior Path about 15 months ago in Big Bear, California, the mobile training team. I wish I had done it years ago. So again, Ian's been through, others have been through, so I'm happy to chat about it. And I wanted to say something about the screening, having gone through the screening for TBI as well. We know that head injuries, TBI, difficulty with applications, all of those things. So for every member of the team that you'll run across, and in all three of our program areas, are here to help, right? So help filling out an application. If you can't do on the computer, we can help with that. And I will tell you that it was an incredibly easy application process on my end. I interviewed with the clinical navigators. I did my part, but mechanically, I signed a release of information, and they got all the paperwork for me. From civilian providers to the VA to my DoD record. So I'll say that every step of the way, we really want to get folks into care, right? This should not be the difficult part, right? The care is work. It's difficult to go through this journey, but this part should not. And then, Kelley kind of had that picture of the 10 or 12 professionals as a part of the team. Truly, what that means is they work together, they know you, they build from your appointments. And this fishbowl I went through myself, and it was overwhelming to honestly be at the head of the table with 10 or 12 folks listening to what you have to say, and have an opportunity to tell your story once and not go to another appointment and go, okay, Ian, why are you here today? Okay, Michael, like, why are you in physical therapy? So I just wanted to bring to life a little bit the power of that integrated treatment model, and that every member of that clinical team works together, and all those aspects of the care build off each other. So just wanted to offer that comment, Kelley. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. I didn't talk much about the fishbowl, and it's on there, and thank you for that. So it is a daunting thing to be able to kind of pour out your trauma to your group of providers. But again, like Greg said, you do it once. You don't go to the speech therapist and talk about it, and then you don't repeat it for the PT and repeat it for the neuropsychologist. So it is a powerful. Everyone hears the same thing. All the providers hear the same thing from the client. So yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Oh, I will say, I did want to make a comment about that, about the integration and the meeting. So just to kind of go off on what you were talking about, the providers know the patients. So what happens in art therapy with a client, they may start to talk about something that the art therapist thinks maybe the neuropsychologist is going to be seeing him next, and that art therapist will walk over to the neuropsychologist office and say, hey, Greg and I were talking about this. He was really emotional, or I think you probably need to peel the onion here. And this is where he struggled last night. So there's lots and lots of communication across from provider to provider, which is really not your standard care, right? So your physician doesn't talk to your physical therapist, and so there's that cross communication is really unique about the TBI programs. Okay. I don't have to go probably over, this is very similar to all of the other programs. Active duty within 12 months of separation from the military. So if someone's got their orders within 12 months, they're fine to come in. If someone's got symptoms, it doesn't have to be diagnosed. And like I said, as long as it's over 6 months, any era of service, any discharge status, again, same programming. Combat experience is not required. You can see these on here. And then under note, I think I mentioned this already. So not severe brain injury either. Next slide, please.
I'm sorry, Kelley, I'm starting to get fired up. Go back to that slide. So really, I mean, like Ian talked about this, Michael talked about it, Kelley talked about it. Again, like we try to remove as many barriers to care as we can, right? And I think when it comes to TBI sounds big and scary. Maybe I didn't have that signature IED, maybe I didn't get medevac, but the message here is signs and symptoms. You guys, Kelley went into detail, you saw that diagram. So we treat symptomatically, right? So for the TBI side of the house, it does not have to be tied to a deployment. you don't have to have a diagnosis. Really what we want to get after is the headaches, the vision, the cognition, the memory, the psychological health aspect. So really you'll see a lot of not required in all of our programs to get into care, and it's incredibly purposeful. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody leaves with that message. Thanks, Kelley.
You're welcome. And I think what I'll add about no out-of-pocket cost is the insurance. Mike Odell talked about their clients, and the TBI centers will process claims for insurance if someone has insurance, but they are not responsible for any co-payments or meeting deductibles, or if they don't have insurance at all, because of the philanthropic giving of generous people in the community, we're able to cover those costs for them. Okay, the application process. I talked a little bit about this, but we've made it very easy. This is our website at the top. We have a very general form that's on the Get Care page. Clients can fill it out themselves, or someone can fill it out on their behalf. People do not need a physician referral to put their inquiry in. If they do need a referral for insurance, the TBI centers will take care of that. They'll get all of that for you. This form, actually, it can be used for TBI, it can be used for Warriors Heart, for substance abuse, and or for post-traumatic growth programs at the Warrior Path. So there's a little drop down that's circled there that you just select which program you or someone you know wants to apply to, and once it's filled out, it goes directly to the centers, and clients are typically contacted within about 2 business days. That may be shorter for Mike's programs for substance abuse. A lot of times those folks need to get into care right away. And so typically they get a message, an automated message saying that someone will be getting to them within 48 hours or 2 business days. And I think that's all we have.
So just a couple things, and then I'm really excited about the Q&A. So just, I think what we want to leave you with as we get into Q&A is we're moving forward together. We believe in the power of growth, and we believe that we grow from trauma, right? So like those are our messages, amongst us on this call. And, really as we get into Q&A, if you don't want to come off camera, that's perfectly fine. We've got some questions in the text box that we'll start with. And then if you're more savvy than I and have a question and can do the raise your hand function in Zoom, that would be awesome too. And then we can kind of establish a queue. So really, maybe Ian, we could kick it off with you. There was a question there about deepening relationships, and I know that you are all about that at Warrior Path. So maybe we can start with that question in the chat box.
Yeah, of course. It's one of the domains that we train participants on is deeper relationships. I think the question specifically says, does the deepening relationship component get into couples, intimate relationships, education, and skills for communication, developing empathy, creating safe space for vulnerability and conflict resolution? The short answer is yes. All right. The deeper answer to that is, when it comes to deeper relationships, it's going to be hard to be in a relationship if you yourself are not in a good place. All right. And that's what we focus on first. This idea that we have to work on ourselves and then work outward. Okay. And that's what Warrior Path is set up to do. When it comes to communicating with others, we have very specific modules that are set up for how do you communicate with others, right? At the end of the day, human beings are very simple. We all want to be seen, heard, and valued. Okay. And really playing into that notion of how do we see people, how do we hear them, and how do we show that they are valued? Once we can conquer those kind of things within ourselves, right, and recognize that, then we can move outwardly to the people that are most important to us. As far as deeper relationships with folks, there are some very deep modules where we build on how do we connect with our loved ones? How do we speak with them, and how do we deepen that relationship that's already there? And we go through practices and some different exercises where we mimic some things and we train some things. And you kind of get, what, for a lack of a better term, bumps and bruises in the program prior to going home and really getting boots on the ground and working into some of these deeper relationships. When it comes to skills for communicating, yes, that's another module that we go in through is how do you communicate with folks? And it's through sharing and listening, two very, very pivotal things here, and breaking those down even further into how we do that. How do you share with people appropriately? How do you share with people inappropriately? I get a lot of smirks and smiles from that, but that's something that most people, especially from the veteran and first responder world, know how to do within their community. If you're somebody who has a spouse or a loved one outside of that, have to learn different practices to approach that. And then creating a safe and trusted environment. When we talk about our roadmap here, safe and trusted environment is primary. That's the absolute when it comes to building connections, building relationships with somebody else. And if you can't be in a safe and trusted environment, everything else, it might last for a while. But if you don't trust those people, you don't feel safe around them, it's going to be very hard to connect. It's going to be very hard to share. It's going to be very hard to listen. With those things not happening, it's going to be hard to build a deep, meaningful relationship or restore the relationship. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you very much. And I put a link
course.
to a film, some other folks in your organization I've already shared this with, but I have a film called Love After War, Saving Love, Saving Lives. And it's got 5 couples, all with various wounds, physical and invisible. And they're telling
Sure.
their stories. And it's not instructional as far as the things I just talked about, but I help, bring the peers curriculum into the VA, which is now the Warriors to Soulmate program. But it helps open up discussions amongst folks. So when people watch it, one of the stories connects with them at least, and it just creates an environment for sharing. So it's free on PBS, so anyone could watch it at any time.
And I would say, just to caveat this and to put a cap on it, this is a training course. That what we do is for training. It can be difficult. Many times it is difficult, but if it was easy, everybody would be doing this, and we wouldn't be in the situation we all are at the moment, right? So with this training, it is training on how do I communicate? I see these things. How do I do that? How do I communicate with somebody? That's the training we give. How do I build a relationship with somebody? That's the training we give. How do I deepen these relationships? Again, that's the training that we're behind here.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for the question, Mitchell. And I saw one question in the text box that I'll jump on from Steve asking about hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And we do not, we recognize that as a treatment modality that other folks use, but we do not incorporate HBOT into our programs. But again, we recognize that folks use it and benefit from it. We don't incorporate it. I didn't see anything else in the chat box that we missed. If anybody has any questions or topic for discussion, please.
Greg, there's a question about looking for additional partners.
We are always, and this is not meant to be trite. Sincerely, we're always looking to collaborate. We focus on what we do for our 3 program areas, and we know that those are 3 things we focus on. So if folks are doing other work for, service members, veterans, and first responders, we're always happy to learn about it, for sure. And Katie, I hope that, and I know, Katie, we've done some work together in the past too. So, please, we can connect on email if you have any further questions. Oh, great. Great question from Narissa, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name. And really, folks can self-refer. We only ask for a couple pieces of demographic information, drop-down box for what program. And you see the circled option, 3 program options, TBI, PTS, and substance abuse. And that gets routed, right to the intake teams there. And if you're a case manager or a loved one, there's an opportunity in the message section to say, hey, I'm, I'm a case manager of this organization. I want to get Greg Frey into care. So it gets routed right to intake teams. And Kelley, please jump in.
Thanks, Greg. Sorry. I wanted to add that if someone doesn't know where to begin and thinks they might benefit from all three, or they just have general questions and they want to talk to somebody about the three programs, they can choose general inquiry on that drop down. So there's a post-traumatic stress, a TBI, a substance abuse, and a general inquiry. And the person would get a phone call back just to kind of talk through it and see where their priorities lie, and just to talk about just the general programs.
Thanks, Kelley. Susan, please.
Two questions. One, buy-in. I know that that's always something when you have, when you're an organization that takes care of all the expenses. How do you one, deal with that? And then kind of piggybacking on it for people that just feel like, well, it doesn't bother, it doesn't affect me if I just blow this off and, oh, well, I can't come right now. So just kind of throw it to the wayside. Doesn't count for all the other planning and things that to go into it. And then two, my other question is when you've got somebody that's in an immediate need, like how do you assess like at which one of your locations that someone would go to, whether it's a group that's about to start that they need to get implemented, right away, or if it's somebody that it's like, okay, they don't need that immediate access. Thanks.
So Susan, I apologize. We'll come back to number two. I didn't hear number one very well. I apologize. I didn't hear what the first question was.
The first question was being able to buy-in. When you have a program that's at no cost, how do you? Michael's got his hand up about it, so
yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Go for it.
Yeah, thanks. So I can speak on behalf of the Alliance and other programs. Like, yeah, they bridge the gap on eliminating financial roadblocks for our nation's heroes that might have them. But our programs are so robust and direct that a lot of the buy-in comes on site. Like, I personally speaking, when I went through treatment, I was able to blow smoke past all my counselors, and they didn't care because I was just a number. Our people, the TBI centers, the PATHH programs, Warriors Heart, the people that we're serving are not just a number, and we will hold them accountable to the lifelines they present, to the work that they agree to complete, to successfully finishing the program, successful completion. A lot of the buy-in will come with holding our warriors accountable for those that may not have to pay anything for treatment. And we've seen that work time and time again here at Warriors Heart with substance abuse. We have a 93% completion rate, and some of our folks come to us absolutely for free, and they end up staying through all the hard work. And I think it's just a testament to the staff that are running the programs for that buy-in piece. Because that is, like, I totally get it. If something's free, I'm not going to take care of it. Well, if I have the right people in my corner helping hold me accountable, maybe I will take care of that gift that was given. And that's what we've seen that works really well. I hope that answers your question.
It does. I've had some experience with people just completely ghosting you. Like they're buying, you've done all the things that comes to getting on, a plane after you've spent, hundreds of dollars on plane tickets, and they no show, and then you keep reaching out and nothing. So.
I'll jump in real quick on that there, Susan, because that's one of the things that we discuss. I hate to use the term, but we call them no-shows, right? The people that you put in all the pre-work and then at last minute they decide not to show. It does occasionally happen. For us, what we do is once a person applies for our program, they are contacted within 48 hours. All right. After that 48 hours, they get a nice and in-depth interview. Okay, we call it recruiting, but it's not truly recruiting because people are coming to us. So it's an interview process. After the first interview, a determination is made. Is this the right program for you? Is this the right training for you? And if it is the right training, then they're given a schedule of when they can come into the program, what dates work best for them. Once they solidify a date, then there is communication, depending on how far out they are from their program. There's continuous communication, right? If it's somebody who ghosts you, as you put it, up front, and you don't hear anything from them, we'll archive them and still keep their information there should they want to come at a later date. If it's somebody that's been very vocal up front, and then as time goes on, we slowly stop hearing from them, we will do our best to reach out to them. Typically, we don't buy any airline tickets until about 3, sometimes 2 weeks before. Ideally, we could get them a month out, but that's when we noticed that's when people were able to say, never mind, I can't be there. So 3 weeks seems to be the golden time for us. And within that 3 weeks, if we're not hearing from them very much up into that 3 weeks, then we can archive them and hold their information should they reach out again. After we buy their plane ticket, then it's a weekly check-in with the lead path guide that they're working with. That weekly check-in is usually about, we'd look for about a half hour to really feel out the situation and make sure that everything is still moving in the right direction. But sometimes, you'll know right away. We can use our good situational awareness and judging off conversations. Is this person truly here? Are they bought in? And then from that point, we have a good idea of who they are, and the no-shows have gone down tremendously once we implemented the weekly contact.
I just have one thing to add about TBI programs. So many of the centers experience the no-show and last minute cancellation, and most have gone to once the client is evaluated, we do a readiness for change through a couple of different scales. Like, what's your commitment level? Like, what's your, on a scale of 0 to 10, are you going to come back for care? And if you're, a 6 or below, what are the reasons that you think maybe you might not come back? So we can address those ahead of time, find out what those barriers are and talk through them, and then know, okay, we probably need to check on this client, on a weekly basis instead of a monthly basis, just to see where they are in their readiness to change and make that commitment. 3 weeks of time off and time away from family is a huge commitment. And it's a little scary, right? Especially after the evaluation, when they know that they're going to be picking at their trauma and having to talk about it. It's a scary thing. So we try to mitigate those barriers ahead of time prior to the IOP.
Thanks, guys. That was a great question, Susan. Again, like we enthusiastically offer this care, but I think that it's work, right? So again, as Ian articulated, and Michael and Kelley, it's work. And I've seen, to Mike's earlier point, veterans will say, nobody loves me, nobody cares about me, I'm on my own, and I will quickly point out that that's unequivocally false, because there's donors from across the country who don't know these men and women, who care about them and love them and are working to get them into care. And so I point that out as well. For your second question about location, I might ask Kelley to kick it off from a general approach, and then Michael and Ian, if they've got anything particular about how they, source folks across the country. I'd love to hear from them. But Kelley, can you kick it off, please?
I can. So when a referral comes through the website, it gets triaged to whichever program that they've chosen. For TBI, we have 2 coordinators who will look at several things. They look at geography first. Are they close to a center where they wouldn't have to travel, by plane and stay in a hotel? So geography kind of first. Sometimes it's patient preference. Some clients have had a buddy go through a program and they really want to go through the same program. They've talked it up and said, no, I really want to go to, the program in North Carolina. So we do consider their preferences. We do have some wait lists at some centers, and we really try to keep a close eye on wait lists and how long it will take someone to get into a program. If they're really eager to get into someplace quickly, we'll look at who has availability soonest for eval and for IOP, honestly. So we take multiple things into consideration, but location is not a barrier. We'll get them there. And housing is paid for as well. So they have hotels, some places have apartments. Did I miss anything, Greg?
No, I think that's great. Thank you. Ian, would you mind?
Yeah, I would echo the same thing. Geography based up front, with 11 different locations, 11 different and running program per month. There are 11 different locations. Geography up front. That said, if somebody from say Florida applies through our Virginia site because they've had people go through there and that's where they choose to go through, dependent on wait lists, we can make that happen. But typically geography is going to be best, because then we can keep cohorts regionally located. Cohort goes through with 8 participants, and it would be difficult to spread those 8 folks across 8 different states all over the country and still ask them to be connected. So geography would be first, kind of some network balancing stuff on the back end, but keeping people together is our primary.
Thanks, Ian. Mike, how do you guys think about it at Warriors Heart?
Yeah, thanks. So we get warriors from all over the nation. Doesn't matter where. Germany, Hawaii, all across the U.S. into our Virginia or Texas location. And then one thing with us, our primary is substance abuse. And so we understand that when someone reaches out to us, they may need help right now, not in a month or in 2 months or a week or whatever. And so we do have the capability of moving pretty quickly. So if someone reaches out through Avalon, let's say they need TBI care or they want to go to PATHH because they want to do that program, and then it's determined that, hey, you need a higher level of care than what we can provide right now. We need to get you stabilized. Warriors Heart, if it's substance abuse, they can get them in pretty quickly within 48 hours. If they're clinically and medically appropriate, then we can get them in within 24 to 48 hours through the Alliance. And that's been just, I mean, they need it, right? When people reach out for help, especially with substance abuse, they probably have burnt the candle's been burning at both ends for a long time, and they're just about done. And we're able to act pretty quickly on behalf of Avalon for that. So, yeah.
Thanks, Mike. And I did see one question there about location. So again, location is not a barrier, right? So again, a great question about, Susan, thanks for that question about how we triage and where we send folks. So again, but the message is location is not a barrier. We will work to get folks into care. And we got a question, I don't know if the person's on the call, but we got a question about rural veterans. Same thing. Right. Again, we will get veterans where they need to go. And the intake team will talk to the veterans, and we'll work on those logistics. So try to remove that barrier. A couple minutes left. Allison, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Happy to answer another question or two, or if folks are good. Really appreciate everybody's time.
Well, thank you. If you guys have any more questions, please, you're welcome to pass it along to me, and I can pass those questions along to our Avalon Alliance Network folks. So I'd like to again say thank Kelley and Ian and Greg and Michael for being here with us today. We have our next Battle Rhythm will be April 14th, and it's focused on creative partnerships for veteran housing solutions. We hope you all can attend. I'd like to thank you all for collaborating and sharing. At America's Warrior Partnership, we partner with communities to improve veterans' quality of life and thereby reduce veterans' death by suicide or self-harm. We believe communities are best suited to improve the quality of life for veterans. and our goal here at America's Warrior Partnership, and our goal today, is to provide community partners like yourself with support, information, and best practices to help you deliver quality services to veterans in your community. I hope you guys can come on April the 14th. And again, thank you, my Avalon Alliance Action Network. I probably messed up that name already, but Avalon Action Alliance for being here today. You guys are the best, and thank you all. Guys, have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
All right, thanks, Allison. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for all your work you do.